All right. Well, you guys, welcome back. If you are new here, we are the Habit team. The Habit is a nutrition coaching company made for women by women. Our program is built for you with coaches who put your goals, lifestyle, and personality first. If you want to learn more about us, head to the episode notes or go to thehabit.com. That's habit with a Y to either request more information or book your free discovery call. Welcome back. Episode 7, you have Coach Zan and Coach Champagne, aka Champagne, which is the freaking coolest last name. But we got to do that since we have 2 Kristens. But we're here to discuss one of Kristen's current clients, kind of some things that she's been going through, and how her and I took a very collaborative approach in terms of just ideas that's going to help her overcome some of the struggles that she's been experiencing food related. So overall, this episode is going to be about, emotional binge eating and how exposure therapy can really help a client kind of push through that and build a better relationship with said foods. So we're going to start off by Kristen just kind of explaining, what had been going on with her client and kind of the game plan we came up for her.
Yeah. So, it comes as no surprise. A lot of women experience restrict and binge at some point, especially if you have a tough relationship with food. And it doesn't surprise me and probably any of our coaches whenever we start to notice this pattern, especially in the beginning with some women. And, just tracking macros, honestly, a lot of the times has helped. We tend to give at the Habit higher numbers. A lot of people are kind of shocked with the numbers that we give them. And this kind of gives like a little bit of freedom that can naturally take away the binge because they realize actually how, much they can eat. But occasionally we'll have someone where, that doesn't work with them. And I came across this client who is amazing, super consistent certain days. And then I noticed one day each week, a significantly higher number of calories. And we would talk about it, and she was very mindful, knows what she's doing, super open about it, wasn't trying to hide it. And so, we would talk about it kind of frequently. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, let's try to, go up to maintenance. Maybe not being in a deficit is good right now. So we tried increasing calories, and it still kept coming. Like I said, she was so consistent other days. And then there was a day that, would just kind of, it would mess with the weekly averages. And I got to a point, where I was like, I think I need a little bit of help. And I asked her, I was like, do you mind? We have, Zan, our owner, if y'all don't know this about her, she has a background in disordered eating. And so I was like, I'm going to ask our owner, like, if she has any tips. And she, of course, was like, please, like, I feel like if I can get this one thing in check, like, oh my gosh, everything will be so good. And I was like, totally, because you have it the other days. You have the workout, you have the nutrition. It's just this one thing that we need to tackle. So I basically went to Zan and laid it out of, hey, I have this client who's experiencing a binge every single week, and we can't figure out, how to tame it, because I know I can speak from experience. I didn't have it this extreme, but sometimes when you get this urge, like, food is all you can think about. You cannot not think about it. We talked about, okay, just remove yourself from the kitchen, get out, go for a walk, take some water, like, just remove yourself from the situation entirely. And that's really hard because it's all consuming. And, she would try that, and sometimes it would work and sometimes it just wouldn't. And so I essentially went to use Zan and was like, I need tools. Help me. Like, she wants it, I want it, and that's the big thing, is she wants it. And so Zan kind of brought up this exposure therapy, and I'm going to try to do a good job of explaining it, but Zan's the professional in this. But essentially, it is whatever you notice yourself binging on. There is something in you that thinks that you can't have it. So once you get your hands on it, you can't stop. And so exposure therapy is purposefully eating it every single day, incorporating it into your day, and kind of riding out in the beginning those really hard times of, okay, I'm starting to eat this and I'm starting to binge, and it's essentially like retraining your mind that whenever I eat this, that doesn't automatically trigger a binge, and like eventually working towards I can have this in small quantities and feel completely satisfied. Um and so, Zan, am I missing anything with that? Like, you did a flawless job executing it and telling me about it, and when I had to relay it, I was like, "Oh boy, here I go."
No, no, no. I think you got like the basics, the surface level of, the point behind exposure therapy. But when Kristen came to me, and first and foremost, this is the best part about being on a team because we can always collaborate.
Yeah.
We all come from different backgrounds and education. And this is an area that maybe Champagne has never really had to touch upon because she didn't really have a client struggling with binge eating on a weekly basis. And so, just from my standpoint, my first questions were okay, is there a precipitating event leading up to this? Is she noticing cause and effect? Because first, we want to see, is it emotionally driven? Because some of us will binge eat due to stress. Some of us will binge eat due to happiness
Yeah.
because we reward
Yeah.
ourselves with food. And so once we kind of got to the nitty gritty, we're realizing, okay, there really isn't anything significant happening. She just is eating a certain food and then kind of going batshit crazy with it. And so then my next question was, okay, are you seeing a pattern of, is it the same foods or type of foods that she's binging on? And that's kind of when Champagne realized, like, you know what? Yeah, actually, it's been, what were the foods? It was kind of like French
Yeah, or
fries.
bread and
It was like
cereal. Yeah.
bread. Yeah. So there were like three main culprits. And so my next question then is, okay, how frequently is she exposing herself to these foods? And when we found out that it was really only during her binges, then aha, there you go.
Mhm.
She's binging because she's not introducing these foods to her diet frequently enough.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest things I talk to my clients about is there is a difference between hunger and satisfaction. And so with macros, you can combine the two. We want you to eat the foods that you love and be satisfied. If you restrict yourself from certain foods, you are not going to hit that satisfaction piece and you're going to keep looking for more and more
Yeah.
because, again, macros give you the liberty to eat flexibly. And a lot of clients fear that because it's uncharted territory, but that's where exposure therapy comes in. If you have anxiety, and this doesn't apply to just food, by the way, exposure therapy is literally an anxiety driven, basically, method to help people get over this fear that doesn't necessarily have to exist. But when it comes to food, it's typically okay, they're so afraid of eating this food, whether it's diet culture has taught them that it's off limits because it's going to make you fat or whatever it might be, or past experiences. Every time I eat this food, I binge, and so I need to stay away from it.
Mhm.
Well, exposure therapy helps your fear and anxiety around that food eventually dissipate. But I always like to say, it's gonna take
Yeah.
time. It's gonna take repetition. It's building any other skill. But what you're essentially doing is rewiring your brain to understand that it has unconditional permission to eat this food anytime, any place. Whereas right now, with Champagne's client, is right now her brain is noticing, okay, I am restricting myself from this food. So the next time I give myself permission to eat this food, I am going to capitalize on that moment and eat thousands and thousands of calories because I don't know when she's going to give me permission again.
Mhm.
And so that is the concept we're trying to basically break to allow your brain to know I can eat this every single day if I truly want to. But like I always reiterate, it's gonna take
Yeah.
time and practice. You probably will binge on the food again, and that's okay. But the more you expose yourself to it, the less, that fear around that food is going to be present. And so that's essentially like the concept I taught Champagne. And, she took it back to her client, and her client was more than willing to,
Yeah.
start this exposure therapy. And so I think it's been a few weeks
Yeah.
now. Um, so tell us, I know, again, it's gonna take time, so there probably hasn't been any, like, groundbreaking updates, but how is your client feeling with it so far, and any, updates you do wanna share?
Yeah. It's new. So, in the beginning, she like I said, she was very willing to try it out, anything, and you have to get uncomfortable because you have to purposefully eat the foods that you feel like you lose control around, and that's really scary in the beginning, especially if you have goals you're trying to work towards. Um, but no, it's been good, it's starting to get better over time. We also have her ranking each day, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being can't resist, 1 being non-existent, the urge to binge after she has the food, and she said that she's really loved reflecting on that, and it's nice to see the numbers start to change over the week. It's not perfect, and I don't expect it to be, and it might not ever be perfect, but as long as it starts slowly happening less and less and less, that's the goal. Um but it's been good. She's been very open to it, changing since there's a couple different foods that she's been struggling with, she'll change what one that she's working on, depending on, the environment that she's in, the week that she's coming up with. But it's been good. She's been really open to it, and I think that it's gonna be helpful long term to just kind of untrain that part of her brain. And one of the things is she didn't really even realize that she was making these foods off limits because that was one of the things I asked. I'm like, "Are you restricting?" She said, "No." And there was a few things that I told her, I was like, after the fact, I'm like, I think you are restricting on those. And so sometimes you might think that, oh, I have strong willpower and I just eat really healthy. Um, but you might be just not allowing yourself to eat it and be scared of
Mhm.
it in the back of your mind, and, that's, like, one thing that you should kind of check if you're having these binges, but you think, "No, I just eat healthy. I have strong willpower." You don't need to have strong willpower, you need to have a good relationship with that food and realize that it's I always say this to my clients too, I'm like, food is inanimate. It doesn't have any power if we don't give it to it, but we give so much power to food. And so stripping that power from certain foods that you're really scared of is important. And it's the way to do it is to eat it and show yourself that, okay, nothing's
Mhm.
happening. I can have this and I can still hit my goals. If I have one, I don't have to have, 5, 6, 7, whatever the number is. So it's been good, and I'm really excited. Like I said, it's really new, but I'm excited to see as it goes and plays out and time keeps going by because she has such good foundations. If we can get this one, under wrap, it's gonna be I mean, she's gonna be unstoppable. It'll be so exciting.
And I was speaking from experience, quite honestly, and, like, I can attest this method
Yeah.
works if you put in the work and you're intentional behind it. But I remember in college, I mean, my number one thing was chocolates. I still have the biggest sweet tooth in the
Uh-huh.
world, and I would restrict myself Monday through Friday, and then my cravings would be so out of control. Like you had mentioned, it's so consuming. It's the only thing you're
Yeah.
thinking about. So, yeah, I'm going to go and buy chocolate and I would binge thousands of
Yeah.
calories. And then you feel that guilt and you feel that shame. And then you're like, okay, well, I have no control over chocolate. So I have to cut it out of my diet.
Yeah.
And that basically got me in that vicious cycle, kind of like what Champagne's client was experiencing. And
Mhm.
so, step number one is building that awareness and just understanding, you didn't think you were restricting yourself from something, but you really were being a little too rigid around that
Yeah.
food. And I can confidently say now I eat chocolate every single day. And I literally could have two chocolate covered almonds and be completely satisfied. And I don't feel like I have to binge that entire carton, but
Mhm.
it took a long freaking time for me to get there. But another thing I love talking to my clients about is making sure you set aside the macros for your non negotiables. And your client will get to that point where cereal, bread, fries are a non-negotiable, and she's going to make sure it's set aside in her macros every single day if she wants. And that's what I do with chocolate. I know that there's a time and there's
Mhm.
a space, and I don't have to go batshit crazy over it anymore because I have given myself permission to eat it every single day. And so that is the part where, yeah, it could take years to get to
Yeah.
that point, but it's such a liberating feeling. But, you know, kind of back to your original point too with food, I mean, we give it so much power and so much control over us. And truthfully, it is hard nowadays because back then, it used to be so simple. We knew to eat when we were hungry, to stop when we were full. But now society has just clouded us with emotional hunger, right?
Mhm.
We're constantly seeing advertisements, commercials, we smell foods, all of these things that trigger cravings when you're probably not even hungry in the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
place. It's it's hard
Mhm.
to, deal with now. And so I've been talking to my clients a lot about intuitive eating and how you can kind of get past all of that noise and really just get back to the basics of eating when you're hungry and eating the things that you enjoy and then stopping because you'll eat again later.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
food is a part of your life every day for the rest of your life.
It's not
So
going
you got to
anywhere.
do it. Exactly. You got to enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, you're not doing it right. And I've said that like 1,000
Yeah.
times.
Well, and that's us. No, same, and that's the reason it's funny, like, in my, um, call 1 spiel that I talk to my clients about, there's 2 things that you hit on. Number 1, I am the same way as you. I incorporate a sweet treat into my day every single day, and when I was tracking macros for specific goals for weight loss, I made sure that was the first thing I pre-logged whenever I did
Mhm.
that because I either pre-logged and it was accounted for and I ate it, or I didn't pre-log it and I still ate it because I wanted it and I knew I would feel satisfied after it. And so nothing's off limits, you have to be careful with quantity. But I always tell my clients that and they're like, "Oh, really?"
Mhm.
And then that leads into the next point. It's like this quote unquote diet should be relatively enjoyable. Like you shouldn't hate your life. And that's why all the other diets are so unsuccessful long term because you hate your life so much that you just completely overcompensate. And once you're done, you swing the pendulum the other way of like, oh, thank God I'm done with that. You hit your goals and then you
Mhm.
learn nothing. You go back to old habits and you gain the weight back. And so allowing yourself to eat the foods that you actually enjoy. Now you're gonna have to incorporate fruits and veggies, and if you don't like those yet, we're gonna have to
Yes.
work on that, but there's there's certain things that you do have to change, but it doesn't have to be bland chicken with bland rice and a
Mhm.
bland vegetable, like, there's so much more, and when you find that it's an area, comfortable area you have to find, but, like, that line once you figure it out and once you cross it, like, things just get so much easier. It takes away so much brain space. I also was the same way in college, like, I would restrict, and then there would be a night, and it's like I would be by myself, and I'd go to the grocery store. It's so, like, shameful,
Mhm.
and I've been there, and I get it, and then I start over, and I hate myself. Like, it took up so much mind space that once I finally got over, it's like, "Oh my gosh, I have brain space to be a better friend, be, like, a
Yeah.
better
Mhm.
functioning human being." It was so nice, but it's hard to get there, and it's
Yeah.
hard work to get
Absolutely.
there.
Mhm. But like you said, if there is one thing to track, it's to do that rating scale and, your client's rating her ability to whether like her cravings are overpowering or not. And, you can do it in so many different ways, but ultimately, what you want to see and visualize is that your fear and your anxiety around said food is, in fact, lowering.
Mhm.
You're not going to go from a 10 down to a 1 in a matter of
Mhm.
weeks, but just to see that little bit of progress, maybe after 2 weeks, it goes from a 10 down to an 8. that's still
Totally.
progress. And so having kind of that numerical data to go off of, because we want that instant gratification. We're so used to tracking all the numbers and everything. And so if you do need something to track, it would be
Yeah,
that. But it's really cool just to see how your hard work is paying off, but go into it knowing it's going to take
yeah,
time. And I promise if you stick with it and you're intentional behind it, and you take it seriously, I mean, in a year, you could be a completely different person.
totally. And it's worth
Yeah.
it. It's kind of that rating scale is like taking pictures where you live with yourself
Mhm.
every day, you don't notice the small changes, but when you look back and you see where you were versus where you are, it's like, "Oh my gosh, I really have come far." And that's really nice too because you might start getting when you're around a 6 or a 7, you might start getting really frustrated of, I'm never gonna be able to kick this." But, you know, look at a couple weeks prior or a few months prior, you were at a 10 and now you're at a 7 or a 6. So it's kind of a good data point for you to remember, okay, look how far I've come. It's not going to be perfect, but I am making progress.
Mhm. And what's really cool about your client, though, too, is I love how honest she was
Yeah.
with her tracking on her binge
Mhm.
days. And that, because that's the reality we all need to face. We need to
Mhm.
see with our binges, okay, how many calories did that push you over your deficit? And it's all laid out in the spreadsheet. And so once she, gets a few more weeks under her belt, few more months under her belt with practicing this exposure therapy, she's probably going to see, her caloric average start to drop a bit
Yeah.
more. And so it's gonna be cool to see like in her spreadsheet of when she was binging, when she started working on it, and how that played a role too.
Mhm.
And so I'm interested to see like if she allows me, of course, because I know it's
Yeah.
private information, but to look at her spreadsheet after a few months, just to that's other numerical data
Mhm.
she can refer to show her, hey, maybe you're still binging, but look, it's not as
Yeah.
intense as it used to be. And that's progress in itself
Yeah.
for
No,
sure.
she's been very honest since the beginning, which is obviously helpful. There's no shame, and I tell her this because it is, vulnerable information and it's very personal, but she's been very honest about it since the beginning, and that's the nice thing because when you're honest and you have a coach, that's when the coach can actually help. It's when you're
Mhm.
hiding it and, I don't know why I'm not seeing any changes, but you're not being fully honest, like, that's only gonna make you frustrated, and so I've been so grateful to her that she's been open and honest about it because I'm like, "Okay, like, there's no shame in that. This is how we help you, like, this is how I can figure out, okay, we need to tackle this. I'm not the expert
Mhm.
in this, so I go to Zan and we can relay," and like you said, from the beginning, our team's very collaborative, and we all have different backgrounds, and I would say we're really good about that of if there's, like, something
Mhm.
that we just need an extra opinion on, we're really good about jumping in and asking for help, but no,
Yeah.
there's never any shame, like, if you're listening to this and you don't wanna sign up because you have a secret that you're trying to hide, like, there's no shame. Majority of us coaches have probably been there. We all have come to this
Absolutely.
because we went through a phase where we were really struggling too. Like your coach
Mhm.
probably has sat in the exact same chair as you, and we're never going to judge you for that. We want to help. That's why we're doing this. Is we want women to find the liberty that we finally found.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just going off of that, even though we've both used to struggle with, restricting and binging in college, it really wasn't. And then I set off on my health journey and I was losing weight and everything, but I still was struggling with binge
Uh,
eating. And so I'm very grateful for, I like went to my master's program and I was a part of a research study. I don't know if I told you this,
no, I don't
Champagne, but
know
this is
this.
how I learned about exposure
Yeah.
therapy. So I was actually doing it with little kids.
Mm,
So little kids who are very food stimulated. So I would literally be sitting in a room with them, and they already provided me a list with all of their favorite foods. The foods that they don't feel they have control
yeah.
over. And so we would literally bring those foods in, and they would have to take a bite of the food with me sitting there rate their anxiety or their craving right then and there after that first bite. And then they had to sit there for 20 minutes, smelling the food, seeing the food, but seeing, are your cravings dissipating after 20 to 30
Mm.
minutes? And almost every single time they were. It's just that immediate
Yeah.
stimulation.
Mm.
And then you're sitting there, you're not slowing down and really assessing whether you're satisfied or not. And then you end up eating the entire
Yeah.
portion when you really didn't want to. And so, well, one, I love that we were teaching children this at such a young
Yeah.
age so that they understood, look, you can eat the foods. And yeah, you may be more food stimulated than another adolescent, but look at this. You just sat in front of this food that you've binged on before, and you were able to take a bite, take a step back, and see that everything dissipated in that moment.
Wow.
So imagine doing this every single day and how powerful that can be.
Yeah.
But that's not to say, oh my God, sometimes it was so sad. Like kids would be bawling, crying.
Oh.
But I point this out because that is how much food has
Yeah.
taken over our
Yeah.
lives. And specifically, I mean, God, there's so many commercials and advertisements towards children too. It's like they're freaking doomed from the
Yeah.
beginning if they don't learn some of these skills. So that's kind of where I first learned it. And I was like, wow, I mean, come on. If little children whose brains aren't even fully developed
Yeah.
yet are capable of doing this, full grown adults absolutely
You
can.
can.
And I don't think I've seen a full grown adult cry over the food, but it was so
That is
sad. I was
sad.
like,
How old were
oh,
they?
I feel bad. Oh, they were like
Oh,
six,
they're
7, 8,
young.
young, like 6 to 10 year olds, I
Yeah.
would say.
Oh,
And
so much emotion.
we would have them throw the food away in a trash can, like, themselves, and, I mean, I hated that part 'cause I hate wasting food, but,
You're, like, scrounging
I
after
was
they
like,
leave.
and I was like, "Well," I was like, "Can we, like, give it away to someone else? Like, don't just throw it away," but it was all part of
Yeah.
it just to show them that they had the power, they had the
Yeah.
control over the food, and so, obviously, in the end, it was all for a good
Yeah, yeah,
cause,
yeah.
but that's ultimately where I learned it, and I'm so glad God, I learned that back in, what, 2016
Mm,
maybe? And so, I even started applying it to
yeah.
myself, and I started doing exposure therapy, and that's ultimately how, like, I was able to just better my relationship even throughout my own journey, and so, it was a really cool thing to experience, and now I'm glad I have that education to pass along to, you coaches,
Yeah.
but also just to any other clients who might be struggling with the same thing.
Yeah. No, that's so helpful. I mean, I think it's helpful for really, like, anyone, and they don't have to be in the thick of, like, to my clients' extreme, like, it's just good to
Mhm.
expose yourself and take away that power and eventually, hopefully, take away all those additional thoughts too around food. It's really like whenever you stop thinking about food incessantly, it's so freeing. It's so freeing.
And now I know that, we don't have to do a deep dive about her, but I know now that you've learned this concept and your client is doing so great at it, you told me that you've introduced it to a few other clients,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I have.
Yay.
Clients that they weren't binging, but their macros were sometimes I say this, their macros were so perfect that it's like,
Mm.
okay, and there would be a random comment about, like I can't think of it off the top of my head, but a random comment that's like, "I think you're kind of white knuckling this." Um,
Mm,
and I
mhm.
said something to a client of like, "Hey, I think that you should what's your treat of choice or what do you like? Are you sweet? Are you salty?" And start implementing it every day. Are you? Are you not? And we started to have a conversation about it, and she was like, "No, I'm not." And I was like, "Okay, I think you should start incorporating whatever it is into your day. You can have it like at night, evening, whatever." And she started doing it. She was like, "I didn't really think that I could implement this." And she started doing it. And after like a week, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so much more satisfied. I'm so happier, like so much happier." And I made her do it every single day. And it's been nice though, like not even on the to one extreme to the next. I'm like, "Hey, let's try this." If they make random comments that are like,
Mhm.
"I went to a party and I had a slice of cake and the next day I like hit the gym extra hard," or something like that where it's you had it, but you also felt guilty. You're also showing me that you felt guilty for it. So those are little things that aren't so obvious, but to a trained eye, they're kind of obvious, and so I start incorporating that, and
Totally.
it's been really well received, and they have said that they felt so much happier and feel like
Oh,
they can have,
good.
not as much anxiety over going out to a social event or going on a date night. It really helps take that anxiety away.
Absolutely. So I wanted to bring that up because, this whole concept behind exposure therapy, it doesn't have to be because you're binging every
Mhm.
single week or you have an eating disorder, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. I mean, it could be as simple as you don't trust yourself around a certain food and you don't introduce it often enough.
Mhm.
And now you're missing that satisfaction piece. And so that is why I always talk about the hunger versus
Yeah, I like
satisfaction.
that.
It they got to coincide or you're not kind of building your dream plate,
Yeah.
so to speak. And so it can be, yeah, introduced to anyone out there.
Mhm.
So if you are, I would say the biggest thing is probably carbs. Let's get real.
Yeah,
Diet
it's
culture has
always
taught
carbs.
us women to avoid carbs. And so, yeah, introduce the foods that you love and watch your relationship with said food improve. And that in itself is so
Mhm.
empowering. So I'm glad your clients are taking
I
it
know,
well.
it's good. Would you have any advice for, like, women right before their periods when their cravings and, like, hunger and urge to eat are so much higher and exasperated
Hmm.
those weeks?
I mean, I always teach my clients how, look, when you're about to menstruate or you are menstruating, you're burning more
Yeah.
calories, 200 to 300 at like some of us. So honor those
Yeah.
cravings. Who cares? Your body needs it. If you really are hungry, then eat. And it goes back to the basics. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're
Yeah.
not. Yes, there's going to be weeks where maybe your hunger and cravings are elevated, but that doesn't mean that you need to stay within your macros if you're hungry. If you're hungry, honor it,
Mhm.
right? And I just know, so for me, God, it's usually the week leading up to my period. And I know I purposely go to the store and I stock up on all the sweets that I want because if it's in the house now, I actually think that I control myself better. Where if it's not in the house and I'm looking for it and I'm like, it's on my mind, I'm
Yeah.
going to probably go out, buy something else, and eat more calories than maybe I wanted
Yeah.
to. And so it actually helps me stay in control now, which is completely opposite of
Yeah.
what you would
Yeah.
think, right? You usually throw out the foods that you have no control over, but you're giving that food power.
Mhm.
And so that's usually what I say. I mean, if your hunger really is elevated, then eat
Yeah.
more. It's totally fine.
I
Yeah.
agree. I always tell them, I'm like, "Just add 100 calories and you'll be
Yeah,
okay. Try again
absolutely.
next week
And
whenever those your hormones start to regulate a little bit more and hunger goes
exactly.
down." Though
Yeah,
females' bodies are wild with our hormones.
I know. Exactly. And look, if you're, for some reason, your cravings are out of control and you're just not really getting that satisfaction either, you can still be strategic with it too. And so, carbs, sweets, obviously, our bodies break it down the quickest. And so, if you want to continue to honor something sweet all day, just try to pair it maybe with a protein and a fat every once in a while to slow down that absorption, to stabilize your blood sugar levels. And then you'll see that you're going to kind of honor that craving, but it's not going to be out of control because you did it in a very strategic way at the same time.
Mhm.
So that's another thing that I often teach my clients is, hey, I mean, if your cravings are popping up multiple times a day, go for it, but just, yeah, pair it with different things as
Yeah.
well so that yeah, so that it does help at least with your cravings and your energy levels and your satiety levels. And so, yeah, food isn't something to fear
No, it's not, and
at the end of the
somehow
day.
it is
We still
it's
do.
feared,
I know.
but we're working
Yep.
on it. Everyone's working on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we just wanted to bring about, obviously, this concept. We wanted to make it short and sweet for you guys today to know that, we are more than just macro coaches. We're not here to just tell you what to eat and how to exercise. We really do work on the emotional piece, the mental piece, and everything in between.
Mhm.
And so if you have been I guess, afraid to get a one on one coach because you feel too much shame around maybe whatever's happening with you, don't. Because ultimately, that's the one step that you're not giving yourself. Ask for support, and you may learn new methods and concepts you never thought you would, and it could be life-changing. So,
no shame here.
yeah.
We're
No.
happy to take you as you are.
Yes, always.
All right.
Well, yes, thank you for joining Champagne.
Of course.
And yes, until next time.
Bye.
See ya.